Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom, and this is the barbecue pulled pork sandwich from the Motor Restaurant at the Harley-Davidson Museum. Well, of course, the star of any pulled pork sandwich is the pulled pork itself, so let's dive right in and trim up our pork butt. So what we have here is an 8-pound bone-in Boston butt pork shoulder. We were just looking at the fat cap side, but what we're gonna do here is we're gonna flip this over. We'll see if there's anything on the surface that needs trimmed up. Sometimes there's some cartilage or stuff stuck in here. I'm not seeing anything today, which is great. That means we can go right into trimming. So there's this crevice that kind of separates some of these muscles and even runs right along the blade bone, right there. So we're just gonna follow that down until we can go no further without cutting into meat. And what we're gonna do is trim everything that's on the surface here. All of this connective tissue that's just really stringy, doesn't really break down very well. You're just gonna end up chewing on it later. Cut yourself a little tab and then just slice right under the surface of that. So you're taking off as little meat as possible, just that white stuff on the surface. So we're just doing the exact same thing to the other side until we're looking at pretty much entirely that pink meat of the pork. All right, well that's looking really nice. Got that all the way cleaned up. So let's flip this back over now to the fat cap side. Essentially what you have here is a layer of fat, then a thin layer of muscle, then another layer of fat. So we call that the false cap, that layer in the middle. If you want to take all this off, you can, or you can just leave it on. It'll add a little bit of extra fat to your pulled pork in the end. So we're gonna leave that on today. And I'm just scoring the surface here so we can give the rub something to really hold on to, something to dig into. So pretty simple trimming process there. We're ready to season this thing up. You're gonna wanna hit it with a little bit of binder. We're using a mustard sauce today, but you could use any type of mustard. You could use oil. You have some options. It's not gonna add a ton of flavor in the end. It's just gonna allow the rub to stick to the meat better. We've mixed up a batch here of the Harley-Davidson barbecue pork rub. Great flavors in this rub. A lot of paprika, some chili powders, including some cayenne, so just a little bit of heat. Of course, you got some sugar, some salt, and then some herbs to add some depth. And we're just gonna work all of that into all these little crevices that we've created. And this is gonna make for some really nice texture, really nice bark on our pork butt. But once we've got that covered, we're gonna make sure we hit all of the sides over here on the money muscle. Flip it over, get the side here, all the way around. Now, since we've trimmed all this out, we've really exposed a lot more meat, which means we can put a lot more flavor into this pork butt. So we're gonna make sure that we season up the inside of this as well as the outside. And of course, we gotta hit the surface as well. That's really all there is to it. We wanna make sure that the rub looks wet on the surface like it does here before it goes into the smoker, but otherwise, you're ready to go. All right, so we're gonna get this guy right here on the second shelf next to some of his buddies that have been on for a while already. See, the crew got in nice and early this morning, and these have been smoking for a good 6 hours or so. Check out the bark on this one. That's that bark next to the stack kind of bark. So this is what we're going for. We're looking to create some texture over the hours and just cook these things until they fall apart. So we're cooking today on the Yoder Smokers YS640S pellet grill, running it at 250 degrees. And we're basically just gonna smoke these butts into submission. We're gonna let them form up a really nice bark, cook them past like 205 internal until they're ready to fall apart. It's a super simple process, nothing to do but wait. Well, our pork butt's been smoking away all day. It's got a beautiful bark. It's about ready to fall apart. So let's take a look and pull it off the grill. Well, there it is. Great looking bark on the outside. I bet if we wiggle at this blade bone just a little bit, yeah, it's ready to pop out. So this is ready to come off the grill. Now, before we get to shredding up that pork and building these sandwiches, we're gonna make a fried onion straw that's gonna go along with that pulled pork. So what we've got set up here is some buttermilk that our onions are resting in right now. And then this is just some all-purpose flour with some salt and pepper. So what we're gonna do is pull our sliced onions out and dip them into the flour mixture, our seasoned flour, and they're gonna go right into some hot oil sitting at about 375 degrees. So we're just gonna fry these until they're golden brown. Just like that, and that's all we need. Land them on some paper towels to soak up that excess oil. And we're just gonna work in batches doing this a few times through. You probably ought to make extras of these because you're gonna eat them all before they get to the sandwich otherwise. So we're just about ready to build our sandwiches. The last thing we need to do is get this pork pulled apart. So we'll get that bone come right out of there. And then this should be tender enough that we can just kind of give it a squeeze, especially down here in that money muscle. That's just gonna fall apart. We can get some bigger chunks kind of out of the center right here. But yeah, that's shredding up really easy now. Great bark, it smells incredible. And a really nice juiciness all the way down to the center still. All right, so we've got a toasted bun. We're gonna top that off with some jicama slaw. Very simple jicama cabbage, some green onion and carrot with a simple mayo mustard dressing to add a great little crunch and freshness to the sandwich. And we're gonna top that off with our pork. Pile it up. You wanna get some of the shredded stuff. You also wanna look for some of the really barky stuff to give you some texture. Now we're gonna hit that with some of that Harley barbecue sauce. And we'll finish it off with our crispy onion straws. All right, let's build us a plate just like they would at the Motor Restaurant. Got that big old pork sandwich. A little barbecue sauce on the side. Some French fries. Looks good to me. All right, I'm gonna slice one open, take a look, and get a taste. Woo, that looks pretty. Let's have a bite. Oh yeah. Great combination of flavors and textures. The crunch from the onion rings is really fantastic. And it seems like there's always something like that that sticks out to me about a dish. Where you go in expecting, I'm gonna love this pork the first bite, and it's like, oh, maybe there's something subtle that really stands out to make something excellent. And this time, at first it seems like those onion straws, and then you realize you get the sweetness from that jicama slaw, but it all plays really well with the texture off the pork. It's smoky, it's got that great bark to it. It's really a symphony of textures and flavors. Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to our friends at the Motor Restaurant at the Harley-Davidson Museum. Fantastic sandwich, guys. If you're ever in the area, make sure you drop in and get yourself a barbecue pulled pork sandwich. That's it for us. We'll see you next time. Be good.